Hey there. It is almost Christmas here in Pittsburgh. It's probably almost Christmas in many other cities everywhere. Um, so uh, I wanted to talk about something that keeps coming up this time of year. A lot of people are getting triggered around, you know, seeing people they haven't seen in a long time. Maybe you're having a lot of, family dinners or whatever. You have a lot of stuff that you have going on in your world, and everybody's super busy, especially if you are trying to handle Christmas and stuff. So you've got all that stuff going on, so you've got all this extra stress compounding everything else that you normally deal with, right? And so if you're trying to write a book right now, you might be bumping into this a little extra hard this time of year. And so I wanted to talk about the problem that we have when we're writing our books and we feel so completely zapped by our writing. And it's nothing that is actually the writing process, right? And I'm really sorry, I don't know why my computer is making funny noises right now. So if you keep hearing that, sorry about that. You're working on your book, and whenever you are writing about something that's super personal, a lot of emotions can come up, especially if it's something that has happened recently. And so I've had a couple conversations lately about this, and I actually was watching or listening to a podcast where they were talking about something along these lines. So the woman on the podcast was talking about how she was working with somebody who's a speaker. And every time the speaker got to this part of her story, when she's like up on stage trying to tell this story, she would start crying. And it wasn't like she was, bawling and wiping snot on her sleeves, but she would start crying during that part of the story. And it actually, had an effect on the audience. Everybody was going into this very emotional part, an emotional point of her speech, but they weren't getting past that. They weren't getting to what she wanted to actually focus on. And everybody was very drained. She would be drained after that. And it was because she hadn't actually sat down and done a lot of the work around that piece. She needed to work on, yes, she's being vulnerable, yes, she's sharing this important story, but she actually needed to sit down and get clear on it with herself. It was something that she hadn't really taken the time to grieve. It wasn't something she had taken the time to write about and really get into a good space with it. So it was affecting her when she was on stage. And the same thing can happen when you're writing. So if you're writing about something that is triggering you and you're having this big emotional, basically this big emotional moment in the middle of doing writing. If you're doing this often enough, if you're sitting down every day, if you've planned out your writing time, you can feel really drained. You might feel like you're completely zapped when you write. And the big thing around that is that you have to look at what you're writing about. Have you actually dealt with it? Is it something that you've come to a place where you feel comfortable sharing it? Because if it's something that you're sitting there going, oh, I don't feel if I need to share this, I'm not quite sure if I want to share this. This is something that I've been thinking about and it's important, but I'm not really dealing with it yet, then it might be something you have to stop and say, all right, I'm going to deal with it for a little bit before I can actually finish writing about it. Or, you might want to just say, you know what, this is going to be part of the healing process. I'm going to use this writing as part of my healing, and I'm going to work through this in writing. But you do have to prepare it too. So if you are working on something that's triggering you, or it's giving you that big emotional burst, and you feel like you're drained after you're writing, make sure that you're giving yourself the space afterwards to actually address that. And make sure that you are okay, because oh, hey, Shelly and Stacy, hello. So as you're sharing, you can actually hit this point where you have this basically almost an emotional hangover sort of thing, where you've given so much of your emotion in this and you've been so vulnerable that then you step back and you go, okay, wow, I don't want to talk to people, and I don't want to post on social media. I don't want to do a Facebook Live. I don't want to do all these other pieces that are essential for my business because I've just had this gigantic emotional dumping into my book. So that's just something I wanted to touch on is, you know, especially this time of year when you've got all that stuff going on externally, if you're sitting down and doing this, you know, this writing process and you have something internal going on, I know so many people I've worked with can attest to this. You know, as you're writing and you're dealing with all these emotions coming up, you may feel like you need to, you know, take a break, sit out some events this week, all of that kind of stuff. But the most important thing is to recognize, yes, this is what's going on. You know, I do need to take a step back for a minute. As I'm working on this piece, I do need to recognize that this is something I have to work through. I haven't fully addressed this, or, you know, this is bringing up a lot of old emotions and I need to work on that. And like I said, there are a couple ways you can do it. You can either allow that space and step back, or spread out the writing time a little bit more. But just make sure that you're being good to you, because if you're not doing that, I mean, that's basic self-care. If you're not stepping back and saying, yeah, I have been so emotional over my book and now I don't feel like sharing anymore. I actually talked to someone the other day at our mastermind meeting who was talking about this, where she's share, and she just feels like, oh my God, I can't do this more. And I think that the big piece is that, you know, when you're vulnerable so much, you do need to take a step back and say, all right, this is enough. This is what I'm giving right now. Maybe it's, I'm just giving to my book right now and I am going to kind of drop back a little. Or maybe I'm giving to my book right now and I'm going to pass off some of my social media to my VA. Or maybe I need to, you know, split my time and let somebody handle my marketing and then I can handle this book. Because you don't want to feel like, you know, you resent your book. You don't want to hate it. You don't want to sit down at your desk and go, oh, every time I start writing, I'm going to get triggered. Every time I start writing, I'm going to have to deal with these big old emotions that keep coming up. So make sure that you're addressing that. Make sure that you are giving yourself the extra space, even if it is, you know, I've got family over, but I do need to step out and run to the grocery store. I do need to step outside for 10 minutes and just do some deep breathing in the lovely cold air. Even if it's, hey, I'm going to bed early tonight and I'm going to meditate. I'm going to listen to calming music. I'm going to take this time to actually recoup, because I know I'm going to have to be vulnerable and I'm going to have to deal with, you know, old emotions, and I'm going to have to deal with situations that don't feel in my control. So if these are things that are coming up, make sure that you're dealing with them. Make sure that you're addressing all of that. And I did want to mention too that I have a program coming up that's starting in January that is for people who want to work through all of this inner stuff and finally build this solid foundation around your core beliefs, your core messages, and actually get above that little stuck piece, where we are constantly going, okay, I want to move forward, but I can't. I want to move forward, but I can't. We're using our writing to get through some of this junk that's keeping us stuck, some of the things that keep us from wanting to be visible. And I want to help you to be able to shine your light, because when you're shining your light, people can find you. And if you have amazing things to offer, then that's exactly what you need to be doing. So if you're interested, if you want to talk about it, I'm offering a free half-hour call where we can talk about what you most want to achieve and what's been kind of holding you back. Because I don't want you guys to be held back anymore. I want you to be able to get through that and get to the book, get through the book, and finally be able to get visible in a big, big way. So I'm going to head out. If you have a comment, please let me know what you're thinking about. Or if you just want to PM me and we'll talk. Have a good day.